What's good, everybody? Welcome into the Early Wedge, part of the Early Edge universe. We do it every single week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, or you can watch it on demand before the PGA Tour event starts on Thursday morning. I, of course, am the coach, and I got to tell you, this week, a fascinating, and I called it last year as well. Of course, I'm on the road doing PGA Tour live main feed this week. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it. But Jon Rahm, he is your defending champion. He's plus 280. We have not seen odds like this since Tiger Woods. 2013. Here's what these Caesars odds look like as we speak. And look at this, down to plus 260. Tony Finau, the only other player under plus 1,000, and Wyndham Clark there at plus 1,600. And then you've got a wide variance. So really anybody, if it's not Jon Rahm, could come and make a big payday this week. But when you have a week like this, I can only trust very few people in this industry. And my two partners are two of those. Let's bring in the stars of the show. You know them. You love them. First and foremost, a little different look for my man Emmett to status on the Twitter. Mr. Patrick McDonald got the hat going today. Good afternoon.
Hat tip to you fellas. Yeah, I caught a mean sunburn this past weekend. The sun was out in Charleston, South Carolina. Had to take advantage. And we caught another mean burn Sunday at the Zurich Classic. Wyndham Clark, Beau Hossler, unable to get it done for us. I saw some tweets out there wondering if we should hedge. I let it ride personally. Came to, bite me in the butt, but matchups came through. The rare top 20 play came through as well. And hopefully we keep it going at down in Mexico.
You're damn right. I hit 2 of my 4 finishing props last week, so that was fun. Counselor, see you, Nejad. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I see Crystal in the chat, so this is a good time for me to say happy birthday, belated birthday to her. I'm doing really well. I'm excited about any and every tournament. I am a little fearful of this one with Jon Rahm at the top at plus 260, plus 240 in some places. Pretty crazy, but I think we're going to find some value, not just in the outright market. I mean, that's going to be a little tough, but with the head-to-heads in the top 20s, there's a lot of guys I have my eye on that I think are going to do really well this week.
All right. By the way, we were celebrating Crystal's birthday because she's currently on an airplane, Sia, and she's watching the show by buying the Wi-Fi at 37,000 feet going to Boston. That's dedication, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's called a much, much, much better half. So next week, we're going to the Dodgers and the Padres. We're going to be there on Friday night. Come up and say hello. I'd love to meet you. But this is about golf. This is about today. So, gentlemen, are you ready to get started? Because I am. These are weeks that whenever I see a lot of people complaining on Twitter, I know it's going to be a good week for us because we look at every tournament as an opportunity. So let's get right into it because we're going to start with storylines that could affect the betting lines. And Patrick, I'm going to start with you. Last week, it was literally life-changing for Davis Riley and Nick Hardy. This is the same kind of week where somebody else could take advantage and have a life-changing win also.
Yeah, you look at Nick Hardy and Davis Riley. They entered the week outside the top 80 in the FedEx Cup points. Now they're inside the top 40. And with the new schedule, only the top 75 players are making it into the postseason this year. They're pretty much locks to do that, and they're locks to play into the designated events in 2024, which is massive. It really does change their life there, Coach. And so I'm wondering, can anyone follow suit this week? I know we have Jon Rahm at the top, Tony Finau at the top, but past them, you have Wyndham Clark, Beau Hossler, 2 guys who nearly took the role of Riley and Hardy last week. You have Aaron Rai, a European player who has played great on the PGA Tour. You have someone like Patrick Rogers, who has been close a number of times. Same with Maverick McNeely. So for me, if Rahm and Finau do falter, while the chances probably are slim that they do, I'm looking at guys who might be a first-time winner.
I like all those names that you just said. By the way, you mentioned Rahm. Big Cheesy says, if Coach is on the mic for Rahm's group, he might withdraw from the tourney. Interesting, Big Cheesy. We'll see how much you know. You know, when I do PGA Tour Live, I'm only on the main feed, the number 1 feed, the regular golf feed. I don't show up to do featured holes or featured groups. Please, I'm the number 1 guy. So, see, as I come to you, speaking of number 1, Jon Rahm is number 1 across the board. 4 wins, 7 top 10s all this season. So is it just one and done Rahm, or what do we do?
It's a really good question because it's Ramadan, or sounds like Ramadan. It's Rahm and Don or done, or it feels like nothing, right? Because Rahm is so much better than everybody else in this field. Now, listen, this is golf at the end of the day, and even guys like Jon Rahm and Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, they can have bad rounds and they can string a couple of bad rounds together. Is it going to happen in this tournament? I'm not really sure, but Patrick brought up a couple names that I think have a shot that are actually on the right trajectory to potentially, if Rahm has a middling type of tournament, to take down this tournament. And we're going to talk about him. I can't wait.
All right. Zach says PGA SIA is my favorite SIA. If you're brand new, you don't know what we're talking about, just pay attention. You'll figure it out. By the way, see, I've got a little surprise for you coming up very, very soon. I'm dipping my toe into a market that I normally don't play in. But this week, I'm playing. So we'll get to that in a second. But there's a lot of people out there that love fantasy. They love to put lineups together. We've got it for you. That's where we start with our DFS best bets. And we got two of the absolute very best. And you're staring at them right now. I don't do this. These two guys are amazing. So, Sia, give me three that we're playing and give me one fade.
Yeah, let's start with Patrick Rogers. We just brought him up a few seconds ago. Listen, I'm not a Patrick Rogers guy. Fortunately, he is not going to be super popular. Part of the reason I'm not a Patrick Rogers guy, part of the reason I say that is because usually, like, when he's a good course fit, everybody's on him. And then he's an obvious fade in DFS. In this case, he's going to be a little popular, but not too popular. So at 9,300, he's probably going to be 15% or lower. I just think he's such a good course fit. And if you look at his last two tournaments, which I understand is a small sample size, he is really striking the ball well. So you add the good course fit, you add the good ball striking. We know he can do it with the putter as well. It just seems like the type of tournament where Patrick Rogers could be, 1, 2, or 3 on the leaderboard on Sunday. So at 9,300, I see some value there. MJ Duffy at 8,000. I think this is a name a lot of people haven't really heard of, frankly. It's one of those guys that he's just been playing so well, and I'm surprised if we were to take out that name and we were to look at his stat profile and we put the name of like Maverick McNeely next to it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense that he is, let's say, $9,400. Well, he's not $9,400. He's $8,000. He's made 7 cuts in a row, and he's been inside the top 30 in 5 of those 7 cuts. Really like MJ Duffy here. By the way, he does have some distance as well, so he's also a pretty good course fit. Carson Young, this is one of those guys where this is going to be hit or miss. But because the reason I put in a 6K player is because a lot of you are going to want to play a 40 to 50% owned Jon Rahm. And I get it. And honestly, like ownership-wise, normally you'd want to fade somebody like that. In this tournament, I'm probably going to make half of my lineups with Jon Rahm and half of them without him. So I'll be kind of at the field in terms of ownership with my ownership of Jon Rahm. With all of that said, if you take Rahm, you're not going to have much money left to build your lineup. So if you want to dip into the 6K range, Carson Young is very interesting. If you look at his metrics, they're not that great, but what he really is good at, even in the weighted department, is weighted off the tee. He's got some distance. He's a guy that I think in this field can pop. His finishing positions haven't really been too bad either in terms of making cuts. So I think Carson Young is really interesting at 6,600. And then finally, my fade, I brought him up earlier. It's Maverick McNeely. He's just not playing well. You'll see in the head-to-head department when we get there, he's going to be a fade for me as well there. It's just the ball striking hasn't been good. I think he's injured as well. He does not belong in the 9,400 range.
Yeah, and that's all you guys. I could not believe the number on Maverick McNeely this week. By the way, Bradley says the top button is back. You're damn right he is. By the way, be very, very careful. I love Crystal very much, but Lori says, hey, Crystal, who do you like this week? Careful. She's not giving out picks in the chat. Not from 37,000 feet. She's not. All right, Patrick, take me through your plays, please.
Yeah, we're going back to Goodwill, kind of the $7,000 range. And these guys are pretty much carbon copies of each other statistically. I'll kick it off with Will Gordon at 7,900. I liked him and Davis Thompson last week. They had a great 4-ball session, shot 9 under, and then kind of gave it back to the field an alternate shot and missed the cut. But Will Gordon gained 3 strokes on approach in his 2 rounds. They're at TPC Louisiana. He's good on kind of these coastal courses. He played well at another Greg Norman design in Mexico when looking at his T3 finish at Mayakoba in the fall. He played well at the RSM Classic. So if the wind picks up a little bit, which it can in the afternoons there at Vidanta, I like Will Gordon to contend. And then Joseph Bramlett, I'm going to be on him every which way this week at $7,800. He's gained on approach in 8 straight events. He's sufficiently long off the tee, which you're going to need this week. And I like that he's contended a couple times already this season. He was in the mix at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, so he's got that experience under his belt. And then Luke List, another player who has won at the Farmers Insurance Open a couple years ago, so similar to Jon Rahm, who plays pretty well there. Very long off the tee. And I think he finally found his iron play there with Henrik Norlander at the Zurich Classic, gained on approach. The putting can be abysmal. If you're following him on Shot Tracker, don't do that at all. Spend your time elsewhere, go outside, walk your dog, do something fun. Don't watch Luke List putt. But these greens are very flat. They're paspalum grass. They don't break as much as Bermuda. There's not as much grain in them, and they're relatively easy to putt. Same with the around the green surfaces, some of the easiest to get up and down around. So because of that, I do like Luke List at $7,800. And then I will be fading the young Dane Nikolai Hogard at 9,500. I think we're kind of just reaching the peak of his trajectory here. Popular name I've seen around a lot. So because of that, with, so much unknown, like Sia said, I'd much rather I might be doing a big time stars and scrubs type build this week as well with Rahm at the top. So 9,500 Nikolai probably isn't going to fit it for me.
Wow. We may see his name later in the show, though. Just a hunch. But you may do the Rahm. What's he, 11,000, 11,500? What is Rahm right now?
12,000.
12,000. That's something you never see either. This is just a really, really different week. And by the way, Rebecca, you know how much I love you. You're in the chat. If you make that bet, do not come back and tell us, oh, what did I do? Rahm at minus 150 for a top 5. Do not do it. They're sucking you in. Do not do it. Just don't bet him this week. It's just too much for too little. That's all it is. Too much for too little. All right. As you guys know, it's only a couple of weeks until the next major. And it's also right here in the family at CBS.
Golf's biggest stars descend on Oak Hill for one unforgettable major. The PGA Championship coming in May to CBS.
All right, gentlemen. This is a market that we have absolutely dominated. And until today, I've never participated. But today I am. First round leaders. I have found a way to bet the betting favorite, but I'm not going to start. Patrick, where are we going with you, big boy? Where are we going with you?
Coach, we're simpatico. I mean, this rivalry that we've been building for, episode to episode, for us to finally find the same footing. I mean, a true where were you moment, in my opinion. It'll go down in the history books.
It will.
You want some exposure to big bad Rahm. I think you got to go in the first round leader market at 11-1. And look, when he plays well, he gets off to hot starts. He was a first round leader at the API, first round leader at the Masters. And even though the result wasn't great at the RBC Heritage his last time out, he led the field in iron play. So it's still all there. The putting was just a little bit worrisome. And like I just said, the putting is, relatively easy here. He came to this event last year without a semblance of form on or around the greens. He figured it out. Over the last 6 months, he's a top 5 putter in this field. So, yeah, I like his chances in the first round. And he has a morning tee time. I originally had Joseph Bramlett as well, but I took him off the list because he's in the afternoon. But like I said, for the DFS segment, I'll be on Bramlett every which way. So I don't hate the play. I just hate the tee time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We like to lean into the morning tee times when the greens are fire. There's not a lot of wind. That's where we've been. Anderson said it, first-round leader bets have been fire. Yes, mainly for these two right here. Now, I will say this, because understand, we've only had the tournament one time at this course last year. Guess who called this event? You're looking at him. I'm telling you, this course is set up for Jon Rahm. There's not a lot of danger. This is just hit, go, and nobody's playing better. So if you're going to bet into a guy who's playing better than everybody else, well, this is the way you get Jon Rahm at a decent price, plus 1,100 and not plus 280. Oh, Patrick McDonald, let's cash together, big boy. Let's cash together. Now, I know it feels weird, doesn't it? Feels weird.
Oh, yeah.
Feels weird, but I think we can handle it. All right, see ya. Talk to me.
I like your Jon Rahm exposure. I mean, this is exactly what I did with Xander and Cantley last week. I didn't want to take them plus 300. I took them in the first round at plus 1,000. It didn't work out, but I actually like this one a little bit better than what mine was last week because you get Jon Rahm only. You don't have to rely on two different guys to do well. I'll go with Patrick Rodgers at plus 4,000. First of all, when Patrick Rodgers is in good form, he usually shows up in the first round. He's historically pretty good in the first round. I get plus 4,000 in a very watered down field with a guy on a very much an upward trajectory, or at least that's how I see it, particularly with the ball striking. So like that one, Beau Hossler at plus 4,500. I've just been really impressed with him, and knowing that he can get a hot putter really excites me as well. But just watching him last week at the Zurich, he was excellent off the tee. He has a little bit more length than I thought, which of course is going to help him at Vedanta. I think 4,500 is solid there if he can continue that great run. Steven Yeager at 5,000, 50-1. I mean, he checks a lot of the boxes. I mean, he really does. Weighted off the tee to green. He is just that guy that I think could really show up. And by the way, he has scared the first round leader even recently. It was a few tournaments ago where he almost got there. So plus 5,000, I like that. And then finally, Team No Putt. We just talked about it with somebody else that Patrick mentioned, but Emiliano Grillo, it was Luke List, of course. His putter's turned around a little bit over the last couple of tournaments, but he is firmly in Team No Putt. But what Patrick said, I think, is really important with these paspalum greens. This is one of those situations with a lack of break, a slower greens. Some of these Team No Putt guys can absolutely survive and get hot. So Emiliano Grillo, classically a good ball striker. He's been a little shaky in that department, but at 55-1 in this field, I think he can be your first round leader.
Real quick, I want to get a 15-second answer for both of you. Zach says, Ron, first round leader plus 1,100. Wire to wire is plus 1,000. Worth a sprinkle? See ya.
That's not a bet I ever take. And so because I don't have Rom as a first round leader, it'd be hard for me to justify that personally.
Patrick.
I'm probably out on the wire to wire, but I know some have markets of first round leader and win, which is different than wire to wire. So if you can find that, I'd prefer that.
Do not bet the wire to wire, because to be wire to wire, think about this for a second. Let's think about this. To be wire to wire, he has to be the first round leader. So why wouldn't you bet him at plus 1,100? Because then he has to win the entire weekend and finish first on Sunday. So you're losing 100, and he's got to be the first round leader anyway. Bet the first round leader. There you go. You're welcome, America. Now, I'm feeling froggy today. I love doing this show so much with you clowns. Love it. God, I love this show. Now, our bread and butter, though. We can talk about first round leaders. We can talk about winners. But this is where it's at. God, Snake, you did a great job with the graphics this week. That looks amazing. Head to head. It's not sexy. You're not going to get huge return on your investment. But this is where it's at. You only got to beat one other guy. That's it. Patrick, where are we going this week?
We got 4 for you guys this week. And some of these, we're already steamed down from when I put them in our little rundown. I was texting C a little bit about the numbers. And Steven Yeager, minus 155 over Andrew Putnam. So you just talked about him. This opened at minus 130 over at DraftKings. And it's really just a fade of Putnam in his skill set. He's not very long. He typically gets the job done, strictly through his putter, and the iron play's kind of just been so. And like Sia said, Yeager, I think this is a great fit for him. He finished T15 in this tournament last year. So I like that. Even though it's a steep price, I'm willing to pay it. And then Aaron Rai, minus 120 over Ben Martin. Ben Martin's been playing pretty great, but this is kind of a long-term play. Aaron Rai's metrics kind of rate out a bit better for me. He finished T24 in this tournament last year. He's gained, strokes on the field in 5 straight tournaments as well. So I like him at minus 120. And then our boy, the Bramwagon, Joseph Bramlett, minus 130 over Mark Hubbard. It's pretty similar to the fate of Andrew Putnam. Mark Hubbard gets the job done really through his short game. He played well at Harbortown Golf Links, but this is a completely different course, a course that Joseph Bramlett will be able to overpower. He's one of the longest hitters in the field. He's one of the best ball strikers in the field. So I'm willing to pay minus 130 over Mark Hubbard, who really is going to have to putt his tail off to contend in this field. And then Eric Cole, minus 110 over David Lipsky. Lipsky's been bad. I'll just say that. He hasn't cracked the top 30 by himself since the Sony Open in January. And Eric Cole, his iron play has been great. He's inconsistent with his putter. So if the putter kind of comes around on these easier putting surfaces at minus 110 for a guy who we saw contend in a bit of a weaker field there at the Honda Classic, I'm willing to take that.
Now, as people can see on the board, we have a little dissension when it comes to David Lipsky. And normally I would say we would have a showdown because this $100 just goes back and forth every week. And by the way, Patrick, who did I lose to with a showdown last week at the Zurich Classic?
You lost to me.
No, but who was the players that I lost with?
You used I had Clark and Hostler. You had, was it Sahith and Suh?
I thought it was Morikawa and Homa. I had them, and I bet on them. Okay, maybe this isn't going the way I thought it would, but regardless, I bet on Max Homa. Do you know who was standing in front of me in line at the airport Saturday morning in New Orleans? And it's like 4:30 in the morning. I'm sitting thinking to myself, I just sent Patrick, or I have to send Patrick $100. I thought it was them. I almost said something to him, but then I was like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the guy that I hate. That I blame him for losing a bet as he's just trying to check in and go home after missing the cut. So I said nothing. And I just let him walk away.
Very big of you.
I thought it was. Now, the only reason I picked David Lipsky, because I believe that every player has that one event. He was T6 here a year ago. I know he's playing awful, but I'm not going to pay $100 and bet on David Lipsky. That's something I'm not going to do. So I'm just going to leave it there. And if I win, I'll talk trash. If I don't, Patrick will. But I'm not sending him $100 to do it. Not this week. Completely out of character for me. Real quick, I love Hogard this week, minus 130. Alex Noren, he also has been kind of like the other guys we're talking about. Champ, Lipsky a little bit out of form. I'm not betting on Alex Noren. I love Hogard, but even if he's at the top, like Patrick said, I still like him this week. And then Brandon, he holds the course record with Tony Finau a year ago. Shot a 63 here. Finished T2. I like him over Robbie Shelton. Again, little familiarity. There's not a lot, but a little bit. I love Brandon Wu, and I may see him a little bit later in my long shot section. See ya. Talk to me.
Yeah. By the way, Coach, I don't think you're allowed to talk trash if you don't take the showdown. So I'm not saying you should take the showdown. What I'm saying is if you're not going to back it up with a showdown, then I don't think you're allowed to talk trash. Again, I'm not trying to bait you. I think that's the rule that I just made up as counsel for this show. Pretty sure that's the rule.
You're definitely trying to bait me. There's no question you're trying to bait me. I'm
not guilty.
I'm going to sit on it for now. But we still have a few minutes left in the show.
I'm open for business. Yeah.
I know you are. Damn it. I know you are. Gotcha.
I'll get it started, folks, while you guys ponder. Joseph Bramlett, speaking of Patrick, Joseph Bramlett minus 130 over Mark Hubbard. I do like that one as well. I like the fit. I like Bramlett's game and how he's trending, particularly on approach, like Patrick said. Definitely think there's some value here. Steven Yeager, minus 126 over Maverick McNeely. Again, this is purely, first of all, I would normally say it's purely a fade on Mav McNeely, but this is also really an endorsement of Steven Yeager. I think this line is way out of whack. I understand Maverick McNeely has the pedigree over Steven Yeager, but that's about it because the recent form, it's just not there. And Yeager happens to be a better course fit as well. So really like that one. And speaking of McNeely, I'm convinced that if everybody knew how to pronounce MJ Duffy's name, and it was a cool sounding name like Mav McNeely, this dude would be in the 9K range. And Mav McNeely, if he was named MJ, what is it? Defoe, Bell, Biv, DeVoe. Nobody really knows. I am telling you right now, just to make the record clear, it's MJ Duffy. Get used to that name because he's pretty good at golf. And the fact that he's minus 142, yes, it's a lot of juice. But it's over Cameron Champ, who, yes, is a good course fit here, but so is MJ Duffy, by the way. He has some distance too. Not Champ distance, but he has some distance. Champ was really good here last year. He gained almost 6 strokes off the tee. Amazing. And 6.75 strokes with the putter. That's a ton. That will obviously regress. Either way, Cam Champ, he's missed the cut in 6 tournaments in a row. And I told you, MJ Duffy, he's made 7 in a row, 7 cuts in a row, and 5 of those inside the top 30. If this was minus 160, I'd still recommend it. And I don't recommend bets like that. So really like this at minus 142.
Cameron Champ has been all kinds of bad. I bet him head up against Tiger at the Masters, and Tiger beat him by like 6 shots in the first round. By the way, you'd think that McNeely, if he's like Bell Biv, would be part of the East Coast family and not the West Coast family like he is. See what I did there? I know nice. You can appreciate that. Thank you. See it. Thank you very much. All right. So that's our meat and potatoes. But I need a little sizzle. I need a little steak. So where do we go? Oh, you heard my boys talk about we all cashed top 20s and top 10s a week ago. And this week, there's some really good numbers out there because there's so much variance. A lot of the Korn Ferry Tour graduates are here. A lot of the guys that are either trying to make a name for themselves. This is the week. Maybe they don't want to go, but they have to go. So this could be a top 20, a top 10, a top 5, a top 40, perhaps. Patrick, where are we going?
Yeah, I'm 1-0 lifetime on this show. So a big streak is on the line this week, and we're going with the Bram wagon.
Let's go.
Bramlett plus 250 to finish inside the top 20. I've seen this down around plus 175. This was at 365. And like I said, the course fit's just terrific for his skill set. Really long off the tee. I think he has a real chance to contend and possibly win. Am I afraid of Rahm and Finau? Of course, but top 20, plenty of room for error. And at plus 250, I think it's a great price.
All right. By the way, Gene is asking, where did you bet these? All of mine are from DraftKings. Patrick, yours are from?
My matchups were DraftKings. I believe 3 of them, and 1 of them was FanDuel.
See ya.
The first one was DraftKings. The next 2 were FanDuel. By the way, I see Cash In Tickets has MJ versus Lashley. I noticed that was a matchup, I believe, on DraftKings. I do like it, but I do want to warn you, Lashley's actually been pretty good lately, and he was really good here last year as well. So that was one that I looked at, but then I looked away from. So I personally wouldn't take that one, but it's not terrible.
There you go. Dropping knowledge all the time. Educate, entertain. Knowledge is power. I'll quickly go. Nikolai Højgaard, he's been playing really good, but the reason you don't know about it because most of the time he doesn't play here. But this is a great spot for any of these players coming in from around the world to really show up. So I like him at plus 130. I will never, hardly ever, give out a finishing position that's minus money. I just don't believe in it, and I don't think it's a good idea in golf to bet like what we talked with Rebecca. Minus 150, you can't do that. Not for – because, hell, he could go out and hurt his back. He could pull a hamstring. He could sprain his ankle. Anything to not finish top 5. But beyond on. Now, this dude has been playing really good golf. Really good golf. He's got a new little baby at home, so he's just adjusting to the sleep schedule. But top 20 this week, plus 140. I like that a lot. Then Tony Finau, again, he tied Brandon Wu with the course record a year ago. He finished T2 with Brandon Wu. I love Tony Finau this week. Top 5, plus 180. See ya, you're up.
By the way, Ben On, I've noticed in the market is getting a lot of love, particularly in matchups. So I think that is an excellent top 20 play that everybody should be taking here. Top 20 for me is going to be Gary Woodland at plus 105. I noticed somebody else thought Gary Woodland was a good play before this screen came up, and they saw it at plus 130 somewhere. So obviously you want to shop your lines if you can. Some people only have one book, and I get that. But if you have multiple books, obviously shop your top 20 numbers. Woodland plus 105, Patrick Rogers plus 120. Again, these guys are near the top of the tournament outright board for a reason. There is a slight talent gap from them to basically the rest of the field. And then MJ Duffy at plus 280. I've talked about him at length. I think he has a shot to top 20 here.
By the way, Big Cheesy teaching you all a little lesson. He says, I got Gary Woodland at plus 135. Why? Because I'm a SportsLine member, and a lot of our picks are put up on the site. Not all of them, but most of them, especially articles, golf picks, M squared. If you're a SportsLine member, you had the winning ticket last week with Nick Hardy and Davis Riley at plus 4,500. Because Mikey does a lot of golf with us too. We're a crew. We're a team. We do it together. Now, we have arrived at the part of the show where anything goes. It could be a long shot. It could be anything. But you've got to win. You've got to win. So, we've picked a few. We've come very close. But who's going to raise the trophy? Is it going to be John Rahm again? Is it going to be somebody else? Patrick, who do you think this week?
It'll probably be John Rahm, if we're being honest.
I agree.
But I certainly am not betting him at 2.5 to 1. And I probably don't think there's going to be a live opportunity just because he's so respected in the markets. So I've gone a bit further down the board, keeping exposure light this week. Hopefully we just cash through the matchups and get onto the Wells Fargo Championship. But I do think each of these three guys have winning upside, and they're all at 70 to 1. Luke List, like I said, a winner at the Farmers Insurance Open a couple years ago, really finding his ball striking there with Henrik Norlander at TPC Louisiana. And this is a course that should be tailor-made for him. He's one of the best drivers, especially distance-wise. So that'll be a huge advantage for him. And same with Joseph Bramlett at 70 to 1. I don't think I need to talk about him anymore. And then Will Gordon, someone who I liked a lot last week, someone who has, proven each and every stage of his career to be able to win, whether it's junior, collegiate, amateur. I think the win is coming very soon for Will Gordon. I kind of liken him to a Davis Riley, to a Nick Hardy type. He's been that good throughout his life. So 70 to 1 for a guy who struck his irons well last week. Plays well on these types of golf courses. Like I said, he finished third at Mayakoba, another Norman design in Mexico. So those three guys at 70 to 1 are my tickets this week.
I got to tell you, I've been waiting this entire show for an apology, and I've kind of brought up that everybody knew I was in New Orleans last week. And where were you last week, Patrick?
Last week, I was in Charleston, South Carolina.
You didn't go to the Zurich Classic?
No.
Oh, I thought you said the Zurich Classic. You got a lot of sun. That's what I thought you said at the top of the show. All right, then I take it back. You don't need to apologize. By the way, Zach says I'm going to join SportsLine tomorrow. Well, Zach, guess what? Courtesy of your boy Sam, I'm going to do you a solid. I'm going to give you 30 days for free. Use a promo code early. Use early. 30 days for free. After that, you're playing with house money. You get to experience everything that we're about at SportsLine. All my guys, all my girls, articles, simulations, picks. You get it all. And you get every single early edge pick an hour before it's on the show. That's important as well. So I'm going to go with Ben Hahn. Bo Hostler, plus 3,500. You've already heard the guys talk about him. They love him. I don't need to say any more than that. See it? You're two. I know you love. You're heavily invested in Gary Woodland and Patrick Rogers.
Yeah, by the way, I really love all of your outrights. I only have two here because this is a weird tournament with Jon Rahm being just, the guy at the top, and it's kind of everybody else. I do, by the way, in the long shot section, have an outright and two extra first-round leaders at very long odds. But Gary Woodland, Patrick Rogers, again, if Jon Rahm were to slip up, I don't normally bet Woodland and Rogers. But again, I'm looking at their trajectory, and I'm not so sure they've hit their apex yet. And if Jon Rahm can just stumble and just lollygag through 4 rounds, then maybe he finishes T6. And one of these two guys can capture an actual win at 24 or 28 to 1. So these are the guys I'm going with this week.
Every time that we have limited picks or we don't have a lot of exposure, because we want to make sure that what we're giving out is very, very smart and we don't others be. But these are usually the weeks that are the best weeks, aren't they? These are the weeks that you're like, man, this is fun. You got guys playing well. You got head-to-heads. We always give out live. Usually, Sia gives out round picks every single day. By the way, Sia's going to be doing a lot of hosting this week because I have to do PGA Tour live. Again, we're through for a reason. You're going to be seeing him in the hosting chair a lot this week. All right, now we've arrived at the end of the show, but this is far from over because this is long shots. Now, Patrick just gave you 3 at plus 7,000. I guess this week that's not even a long shot because of the numbers. So as I look at my notes, you truly have, Patrick, a long shot winner perhaps this week. Give me the number while I sit back and go, whoa! Talk to me.
280 to 1. The doctor, Doc Redman. He's gained iron play is cooperating. He's gained on approach in 4 straight starts. That included a T16 at the Valspar Championship, and just really a play on the number. He's anywhere from 120 to 1 at some books. It was 280 at FanDuel. I grabbed a small piece of that, obviously at 280 to 1. So that is my long shot this week.
All right, I'm going to go with Brandon Woo Woo. I already told you earlier in the show why he's so good. Last year he kind of came out of nowhere. So if you're looking for a winner, just a little sprinkle. I know there's some of you that are new out there. This is not full units. We're not telling you put 100. This is just maybe $10, $15, something fun. And if it hits, it's still a very, very nice payday. So winner at plus 6,000, top 5 plus 1,100. You never see that number. So I like that as well. See ya. Bring us home.
Welcome to the sprinkle section where our outright winner is going to be MJ Duffy. Again, in the outright card, I only had the 2 guys. Maybe I'll find some guts to live bet and put some live bets out, whether it's on the Early Edge or Twitter. That would be contingent on what happens with Jon Rahm. But I've only got those 2 outrights and MJ Duffy at 80 to 1. First round leaders, I wanted to add a couple at really, really long odds. Nate Lashley, again, somebody brought up the matchup between him and MJ Duffy. He is actually a sneaky good DFS candidate and potentially a sneaky good candidate in general to first round leader this thing. So I think 90 to 1 is pretty fair odds there. And then Carson Young, I mentioned him earlier. He's 6,600 in DFS. There's no chance whatsoever he can win over 4 rounds. But I do think there's an outside shot if he gets hot, particularly off the tee and on approach, that 130 to 1, that could happen. So 130 to 1, 90 to 1 first round leaders.
How many times has this happened to you guys so far? You'll see the C Young up on the board. You'll be like, oh, Cameron Young's playing this week? Really? No, it's Carson Young. It's happened at least 2 or 3 times in the last couple of months to me at least. I was like, I was sure I was all over this field. Apparently I wasn't. Apparently I was. All right. Now, you guys know that we like to end every one of our shows by asking my guys, what's the number one most important thing you're looking forward to this week? Use this for your knowledge for the week or maybe moving forward into the future. This is the long game, ladies and gentlemen. You got to have the information. It's the most important thing. Patrick McDonald, what's the number one thing for you?
Coach, I just wanted to mention firsthand regarding Louisiana, I wasn't allowed. I talked to the bigwigs up in New York. They're like, Patrick McDonald on Bourbon Street, potentially with Coach as well. That's liability we cannot take on as a company. So I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Well,
but what I am looking at this week is really who can use this tournament as a launching pad for their season. We saw it with Jon Rahm last year. He wasn't playing great. He comes to this tournament, wins, beats kind of a so-so field. Then he has 7 victories over his next calendar year, but he's not the only one. Tony Finau in his first 13 starts of 2022, 0 top 10 finishes runner up here. Like you said, he tied the course record with 63 in the final round. His last 13 starts of 2022, 2 wins, 2 runners-up, and 2 additional top 5 finishes. It's been a launching pad in its young history, and I think it could serve as one again.
Sia, what about you?
For the record, I was the one that wrote that memo as counsel for the Early Wedge that you two couldn't be in the same city. Anyway, sorry about that, by the way. Yeah, what I'm looking forward to, I know this sounds kind of weird, but I'm looking forward to Jon Rahm just kind of stumbling a little bit in the first couple rounds because I really want to see who can come up and maybe grab this tournament from Jon Rahm. There's a lot of names in this tournament that I think can do it if Jon Rahm slips a little bit. Some we didn't even bring up, like Ben Martin, Aaron Rai. I think those guys can do well in this tournament too. But we brought up Gary Woodland. We brought up Patrick Rogers, lower guys like MJ Duffy. There's a lot, Will Gordon, Joseph Bramlett. There's a lot of guys in play here. And I think, again, I'm kind of looking forward to Jon Rahm stumbling out of the gates a little bit.
I also want people to remember that we're now down to 3.5 months until we get to the FedEx Cup playoffs. And this is a new year. This is different. Now, understand this, that there's only 70 players, not the usual 125, that will fully keep their PGA Tour cards. So if you don't think these players are sitting at home looking at their schedule, even some of the top players, go look at the standings. There's a lot of names that you know outside the top 70. It's go time. Who's going to pick it up and do it this week? That remains to be seen. But all these players behind the scenes, they understand the pressure. This is their livelihood. This is their job. This is how they get the job done. And it's never been harder than it is right now to keep your tour card. Who can handle the pressure? Who can handle the pressure? All right, we're here every single week. For those of you that watch it live, 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, or you can watch it on demand, follow our YouTube channel. We're also growing. We're going to be in other places very, very soon. We want you to be a part of every single thing that we do here at the Early Edge. But with all that being said, it's all the damage we can do. For those of you watching live, we are live again in 20 minutes at the top of the hour for Early Edge in 5 with your favorites, Frickin' Frack, EC, the Speculator, Mikey B. We got all the usual characters in 20 minutes. But with all that being said, there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Mexico Open tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, love up, Patrick McDonald, the counselor. I am the coach. Behind the scenes, all those great graphics, always getting the job done, always moving the brand forward, simply known as the Snake. But we value all of you. Thank you for taking the time. In the middle of a Tuesday, it is not lost on us. So we grind for you, so we can win with you. It's what we're all about at the Early Wedge. Good luck.